few sights stir the soul, like Colin McRae flinging a Prodrive Impreza WRC car flat out down a world rally stage. Sadly, we said farewell to both McRae and the Impreza long ago, but memories of their iconic partnership are as powerful as ever. Thanks to a unique commemorative restomod project, those glory days have made a welcome return, in the evocative and unmistakable shape of the Prodrive P25. So around about 25 years ago, the very first issue of Evo was published, and one of the star cars of that issue was a Japanese import Impreza 22B. 25 years later, we're in the P25, which is Prodrive's celebration of quarter of a century of history and that incredible success that their rally team enjoyed in the late 90s when blue Subarus literally ruled the world. I hate the term restomod because it's quite ugly and it doesn't really do the cars justice, but Prodrive have entered the restomod market with this car, and it's really something special for a company like Prodrive to put all their efforts and all their knowledge into reimagining and recreating an already iconic car. What have they done? Well, it's a top-to-toe reworking of the Impreza. They start with a two-door Impreza shell or two-door Impreza car, and then they'll basically strip it back to the bare bones. Every panel on the car is carbon fibre in that classic kind of wide body look that was pioneered by the 22B and the World Rally car. The engine is built around a late model, so 2018 2.5 litre boxer engine, heavily reworked, so pretty much the only thing that remains standard is the block. All the internals are different, management system's different, the water to air intercooling system is different, the full shebang. Likewise, the transmission, that's possibly the most exciting part of the car because it's a competition spec, 6-speed sequential box, dog box, but with helical gears to try and give a little bit of refinement, which it does actually surprisingly well. You can hear the gearbox and the diffs working, but it's quite a civilized combination. There's an electronically controlled center diff, which is also sort of 2018 era, but what you're getting is a truly authentic Prodrive Works Subaru rally car experience, but it's civilized but not sanitized, so it's got that edge, it's got that occasion, it wakes you up when you get it in, and it's everything you would want this kind of car to be. We talk about our love of analog cars, but I think we've actually lost touch with what an analog car is until you get in this, and apart from the paddle shift gearbox, everything is moderated and modulated by the driver. So the brakes are massive, again rally inspired AP racing brakes, no servo assistance, no ABS, so that's highly unusual in 2023. Likewise, there's no electronic stability control, no traction control. It's all down to the diffs and the way that center diff manages the torque, but it's a totally pure driving experience, and to be honest, it takes a little bit of getting used to start with, particularly if you've never driven a car with non-servo assisted brakes before, then the pedal will feel quite hard, and you'll be surprised at how hard you have to push it to get the braking effort you want. But give yourself a chance to get dialed in, and it's such a brilliantly responsive car, and pure in the way it does what you ask it and only what you ask it. I think we've got so used to cars managing the torque delivery and managing the traction and managing the gear shifts and managing the amount of braking power you get. Nothing is linear, nothing is exactly, the output doesn't match the input to the pedals and the steering. In this car, it absolutely does, and that is one of the best aspects, I would say, of this car. Yes, brilliant to be in a bright blue Prodrive built Impreza, but the driving experience is on another level to anything else you can buy today that's a newly built car. In terms of what you might recognise in a contemporary high performance car, there is a choice of dynamic driving modes. We're in road at the moment. Quick push on the button with a Prodrive logo, and that puts us into sport. That gives you more power, more torque. So torque goes up from 450 newton meters to 600 newton meters. Power goes up from around 380 horsepower to close on 450. So it's a big step, and a particularly big step when you think the car comfortably weighs less than 1,200 kilos, even fully trimmed with these nice seats and hi-fi and aircon. It's between 1,150 and 1,180 kilos. So it's very much a throwback to the 90s in terms of its curb weight. Road is very civilized in terms of the way the powertrain responds and the throttle response. Sport immediately lights the fire under the car, and that, I think, is, unless you do happen to find yourself driving through town, I think you would always be in sport. And if you're feeling particularly antisocial, you then go into the most aggressive mode, which is Sport Plus, which gives you anti-lag, which is so cool. It's a real throwback to 90s rallying. You get the pop and bang, the turbo is there all the time and awake, and it brings a marked improvement in the throttle response and just the aggression in the car. There have been other developments and other improvements. So again, on the turbocharging side, the turbo is always spooling, so not as aggressively as it does in anti-lag, but it's always there waiting to build boost pressure, so that improves the response, and I mean, it works like a civilized anti-lag system in a way. So the step between anti-lag and non-anti-lag isn't as dramatic as it would have been before. That fine management of the turbocharger was there, but still it gives you a real punch of adrenaline when you hit the throttle. So other hardware highlights for the P25, well, suspension obviously is another key part of the package. Instead of going to an off-the-shelf part, Prodrive, like they've done with everything else in the car, they've gone to Bilstein, and Bilstein have produced a bespoke suspension package for this car. You can probably tell at low speed it's pretty firm, but it's all in keeping with the car and how it delivers its performance. Actually, okay, it crashes and bangs a bit on the worst surfaces, but once you get up to speed, it is sensationally good. You throw it down the gnarliest road you can possibly find, and you'll be pulling all sorts of paces thinking the car's going to bottom out or leave the road, and it just smashes down the road like a mogul skier. You can imagine the wheels going up in the arches, but it feels fabulous, and it encourages you to drive. Well, probably encourages you to drive too quickly, actually, because every road becomes a tarmac rally stage. But that's the joy of this car. That's what we all imagined in our youth when we were driving Imprezas, and now this car is here and we can live those dreams in far more detail and authenticity. Obviously, we need to talk about the price tag. I think £500,000 for an Impreza is, you have to occupy a totally different headspace, I think, to understand that. But the customer that this car is aimed at, they will have a collection of fantastic cars, and this car will definitely occupy a new space in their collection. There's nothing really out there that will give you the driving experience and give you the ability to attack a really difficult road with the aggression that this car has. So the P25 isn't just about the exterior changes, it's had a comprehensive makeover inside. Imprezas were always, by definition, very basic, quite plasticky things. I think if you're charging £500,000 for something, it probably needs a bit more than basic plastics, but it needs to be appropriate. And just sitting in this car, it puts you in the right frame of mind. It's simple, it's pure, but it's really, really nicely done. The whole interior has actually been handled by Callum, so they've done the design and the manufacturing of the interior, so you can see all the Alcantara and the stitching, which just lifts it a little bit and gives it some tactility. There's the full LCD dash with a diagnostic page, and it also gives you the usual shift lights, different sport modes. What else have we got? This is quite cool, little bit of rally pedigree. So this is just a regular rally hydraulic handbrake, but we also have an electronic park brake. So as you can imagine, when you're trying to balance this gearbox and clutch and doing hill starts, the electric brake is a real godsend, and it switches off or disengages automatically, so that makes it really interesting. Other highlights, the cage in the back, the sort of delete rear seat, and the cage is an option, but again, it's really appropriate for the car and it gives you a little bit of extra peace of mind. The paddle shift system again is very, very rally. So when I've been driving, my left hand has been trying to reach for a downshift paddle, but once you get used to it, this single paddle push-pull, so pull back for upshifts, push forward for downshifts, becomes very natural. And I think my favourite part of the interior is this steering wheel, because it feels perfect in your hand and there's no buttons, so it's all business, which is what this car is all about. Prodrive might be newcomers when it comes to building road cars, but they certainly know Imprezas inside out. So if anyone has the right to build a resto mod around an Impreza, it's them. As a driving experience, it is just like nothing else out there, certainly in the resto mod market. And actually, I can't think of another car that's ever really come close to replicating the driving experience that this car delivers. £500,000 is an extraordinary amount of money for a Subaru Impreza. But like all great cars, when you get in and drive the P25, that money really becomes immaterial. I think Prodrive have taken the resto mod scene in a fascinating direction with this car, but more importantly, they've breathed new life into a fantastic icon.